Yeah.
Never seen that one.
I've never even heard of that. I didn't know
fantastic.
they made that one.
Oh, it's just great. At one point, he covers himself in bananas and nobody knows who he is.
Dueling decades.
All right, Mike Ranger, you picked up a couple of points in that round. You jump out to the lead and you take control of the board, heading into our final movies round, which means you can go first or defer to one of us.
Oh, I think I'll go first. Released on June 27th of 1980, was the fourth installment of the Love Bug series, Herbie Goes Bananas. Walt Disney serves up easily the weakest film of the series so far. This time, everyone's favorite Volkswagen finds himself in the hands of Jim Douglas's nephew, Pete, and his friend Davey, as they make a journey to race in the Grand Premio in Brazil. Along the way, they pick up a pickpocketing kid named Paco, and they're off to the races. Highlight of the film is probably when Herbie fights a bull. But honestly, my favorite part is when they make him walk the plank. So bring your kids, don't dress up, come exactly as you are for the latest film from Walt Disney that has all the critics split. It's Herbie Goes Bananas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Never seen that one.
I've
It
never
is
even
fucking
heard of that. I didn't
fantastic.
know they made that one.
Oh, it's just great. At one point, he covers himself in bananas and nobody knows who he is.
Genius.
Yeah.
Were they peeled?
No.
Oh.
That would have made a mess. Stop being crazy.
All right, Mancrush, what did you bring for the movies round?
All right, so let's go June 1st, 1990. And look, there are good movies, there are bad movies, and then there are movies that are so bad that they're actually great. And this movie, this lands in that so bad, they're actually great category. And when I say bad in relation to this movie, I personally don't find this is a bad movie, but it's not for everyone. For instance, like if I showed this movie to one of my friends, they'd probably be like, what the fuck are we watching? If I showed this movie to Mike Ranger, Mike would probably be uber excited to see it. And I know that because I think I saw this movie with you on a 35 millimeter. It's not a movie that you'd sit down with your mother with to watch. Well, I don't know. Like maybe you would, but my mother would probably have me like seek professional help if I suggest this one. But anyhow, like this one at the box office, this movie only took in $200,000. This is around $400,000 in 2021. But that's basically because it didn't get many screens. On the release day alone, I only found a handful of theaters, maybe 4. And then it was rolled out over the course of June. That said, this is a cult classic and it kind of gained its following mostly at the rental store. And probably the place I saw it first would probably be like late night HBO or Cinemax in the early 90s. It wasn't on all the time, but when it was on, you caught it, you remembered it. And this is also one of those VHS covers where I don't think I could have rented this with my mother paying because I would have gotten eyebrow for this one. Like if I brought it up, she would be like, huh? What is this? Put this back. And Courtney, just so you know, my parents like let me watch whatever, but this one, I don't know if they would have. Anyway, in an interview with the writer-director, it was Frank Henenlotter from 2014. He said this movie, it had a hard time getting an R rating. And according to Frank, and maybe you can add to this, he says that the MPAA, they're funded by the major production companies. So if somebody like Warner Brothers, they bring a movie to the rating board and they're like, hey, we want an R rating on this one. The MPAA will say, okay, cut these 4 frames and you got it. In his case, they dropped off the movie with the MPAA for a rating, and the head of the MPAA called them back and said, hey, congratulations, you guys are the first film rated S. To which they replied, what do you mean? Like S for sex? And the head of the MPAA said, no, S for shit. And all that being said, they ended up releasing this movie as unrated. So obviously that hurts. You're not going to get as many screens that way. So anyhow, so if you're in the mood for monster movies, mad scientists, lawnmower mutilations, decapitations, real New York City hookers who actually earn their SAG credentials, pimps who dress like Joey Buttafuoco, movies endorsed by Bill Murray, Morton Downey Jr. parodies, super crack, exploding prostitutes, freezers filled with body parts, purple nipples and pubes, and drilling into your own head for ideas, then go out and find yourself a copy of the movie Frankenhooker.
Yeah.
It's a classic. Let me tell you.
All right. So for my movie selection, I'm going to tell you guys all a tale about three girls who came to Hollywood to make it big, but they only found sex, drugs, and sleaze. Released June 17th, 1970, I give you Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Oh.
Rated X. This film is actually a really good early example of a film, much like Mancrush said, that was so bad, people actually liked it. It's listed among the 100 most enjoyable bad movies ever made in the official Razzie Movie Guide. Now, you won't even find a bad review for this movie by legendary film critic Roger Ebert, because he wrote it. His future co-host, though, Gene Siskel, on the other hand, he panned this movie, gave it a 0-star rating, and named it one of his 20 worst movies of 1970. So Roger Ebert wrote the movie along with director Russ Meyer, who is the same director who gave us the classics Faster, Faster, Pussycat, Kill, Kill, and Wild Gals of the Naked West.
Classic.
So originally intended to be a sequel to the 1967 film Valley of the Dolls, Beyond kind of actually became a parody and only a sequel in namesake. It was made on a budget of just $900,000, which is $6.2 million in 2021. It's been in that movie, it made 10 times the amount of its budget back at the box office,
Wow.
which for an X-rated movie kind of classified it as a hit.
Yeah.
The cast was mostly made up of unknowns because they didn't think they needed any more than the Valley of the Dolls name attached to it. The film revolves around an all-girl rock band trying to make it big when they meet up with a sleazy producer who is loosely based on Phil Spector. In retrospect, not the best character model. So this movie has absolutely everything in it, including a kicking soundtrack by the Strawberry Alarm Clock, the on-screen debut of Pam Grier. She actually had like a brief cameo role as an extra in this film. And just as many drugs as a Cheech and Chong film, bisexual orgies, beheadings, bikinis, and one young lady has a not-so-happy ending when she deep-throats a pistol. But my favorite thing about this film is that it gave us the quote, "She was living in a single room with three other individuals. One of them was male, and the other two were females. God only knows what they were up to in there. And furthermore, Susan, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to learn that all four of them habitually smoked marijuana cigarettes. Reefers." Of course, that was famously used as the intro to Sublime's 1992 cover of the Toys' Smoke Two Joints. I give you Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, June 17th, 1970.
Well, y'all made a good case on this one, obviously movies, and I've not seen any of them, but I've certainly heard of all of them. Well, actually, I'd say I hadn't heard of Frankenhooker, and I think that's why I'm going to have to go with it, because it's just the greatest title, Frankenhooker.
It's actually, like, Mike, did you see this one with me on 35 millimeter at that festival?
I don't remember. I don't remember if I was. I don't know. I don't remember if I was there for that.
You've seen it though?
No, yeah, I have
Yeah.
a couple copies of it.
But you're really right about the MPAA as far as that goes. I helped co-produce a movie called Dorm Days that I was in. They've done like two more since, and went straight to video on, but through MGM, which was a kind of an MGM behind us, pretty big deal. But it was took place in a college dorm, and it was like mistaken identity and that kind of stuff. But we had a hooker, there was a hooker looking for the guy in the show. And that was the whole mistake things was a French student and a hooker. And just because there was a hooker in it, we had to go rated R.
Wow.
Just because there was no nudity. So then we ended up adding some nudity and everything, because now we felt the expectation with R, we had to deliver on that. But they did cite something that I thought was interesting, which is Pretty Woman, which I would not think of Pretty Woman as an R-rated movie, but because she's a prostitute, it is.
Wow, Pretty Woman is an R-rated movie.
Look it up.
Wow.
That kind of shut us down for any argument after that when it gets like Pretty Woman. But if I'm not mistaken, that's the case. Yeah.
That is pretty crazy. Actually, let me ask you about this, because Mark brought up Razzies, and we bring that up constantly because Stallone always comes up, and he was like nominated or won like every friggin' year. As an actor, and you've been in like a ton of stuff, like what, and especially the people that you work with, I'm sure they've been nominated or won at some point. what is the thought on set about? Is it like a joke, or do people really get butthurt about the Razzies?
I've never really had to deal with it, so thank God no one's given me one or anybody I know. So that's not really come up before. But I've certainly been in movies that could have earned it. That's for sure. I've been in a few stinkers. I'm not gonna say what, but I've been in a few stinkers in my day. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, we look at it all the time, and it's like, how can you give this actor a Razzie for whatever movie? Like, I just had Wyatt Earp. Was that last week? And that was up for a Razzie, and it was up for an Academy Award at the same time. It's like,
interesting.
Yeah, how could that happen?
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's just what about like just awards in general? When like, how does that, like, what kind of weight does that hold? Like when you're picking a movie or doing anything like that, are you looking for that?
I'm usually not in the I have I'd say probably closest to anything I've been. The couple things that I've been in that had a shot maybe would have been Memphis Belle, because it's a period piece and all that. Yep. And then when I did Texas Rising, that miniseries a few years back, they had done the Hatfields and McCoys, so the expectation of being nominated for an Emmy was there. We didn't get it, but it was in the trades as a snub, blah blah blah. So that was a little disappointing. I mean, I've never been to an awards thing, and a big awards like an Academy or an Emmy, where I was actually involved in something. So I think that'd be exciting and nerve-wracking and all of that.
I'm sure. I just figured I'd ask, because we always forget to bring that up, and the Razzies always come up. We gotta get somebody that's really pissed off about the Razzies. I want to hear like why.
All right, Mancrush. Well, you picked up 2 points in that round. In Duelers, that means this game is tied between Mancrush and Mike Ranger. So we're going to go to a lightning wild card round.
Right.
All right. Mancrush, why don't you go first on this one?
All right. This was a no-brainer for me. June 29th, 1990. I have yet to get something that ties two of my picks together. So when I saw this story pop up, I had to use this for the wild card round. All right. So this is a new story. It's a Caravan to Cruise Against Censorship. A Caravan Against Censorship, sponsored by local radio station Golf 104, will drive around the Capitol complex this morning, giving away skimpy bathing suits and cassette recordings of the obscene 2 Live Crew album. We feel that music censorship is an important issue, and it's a dangerous thing to do to people, said Bill Marriott, general manager of Golf 104. The Constitutional Caravan will form at 7:30 a.m. in the parking lot across the street from the governor's mansion on Adams Street. A petition urging Governor Bob Martinez to back off his attacks of dirty lyrics will be circulated and later delivered. None of us really like rap. This is a quote. But if they censor rap, what's next? Flag said. The station doesn't play rap, but it will give away 12 cassettes of the dirty version of 2 Live Crew's hit album, As Nasty as They Want to Be. A federal judge in South Florida, like we talked about before, has ruled that the album is obscene. At the bottom of this petition, Flag said, is a PS, and I quote, "Lay off the butt floss bikinis, Bobo," a reference to the bare buns thong bathing suits the governor and cabinet recently banned from beaches and state parks. Thong bikinis will be given to the first 5 people who agree to wear them during the demonstration, Flag said. The caravan will circle the Capitol 10 times, 1 for each of the amendments in the Bill of Rights, and then return to the starting point, Flag said. So there you have it. It's the Caravan to Cruise Against Censorship, tied together with 2 Live Crew and thong bikinis.
Wow. All right, Mike Ranger, what did you bring for the wild card round?
Well, I'm going to go with the movie category. Released on June 6th, 1980, was a low-budget Canadian film featuring Playboy Playmate of the Year, Dorothy Stratton. The sci-fi fantasy comedy takes place in the 31st century, where a blonde android named Galaxina leads a crew aboard a space cruiser in search of a gem with unlimited power. Shortly after the film's release, star Dorothy Stratton was murdered by her husband, Paul Snider. He tied her up, assaulted her, put a shotgun to her face, and pulled the trigger, and then turned the gun on himself. So, wow, that's just the worst.
At least you didn't start the game with that.
That is the worst.
That's my feel-good story.
All right, let's go down to Courtney Gains for the final ruling on this game.
Yeah, that's a terrible and sad story. I'm going to have to go with the Caravan Cruise just because of how he tied everything together as he did. You got to give it to him. That was clever.
Sweet.
All right, Mancrush, that means you win this game. Congratulations.
I think then obviously, like, I wanted to ask you about something, Courtney. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And you know, is like, do you ever wonder about this? Like, in an alternate universe, you might have hooked up with Lorraine at the Enchantment at Sea Dance, or
Yeah,
by the
that's
Sea Dance, where they call it.
that's what people always bring up, that I would have become Crispin Glover's father or something, or not Crispin Glover, but Michael J. Fox's father. Yeah, that's a weird thought.
Or maybe not. Maybe it just would have split the universe. Have you ever thought what that alternative universe would have been like with you at the helm there? No, nothing.
No.
but it goes to show you that even you do a small part in a movie, if it's a pivotal part, it can actually bring up, people talking about things like that. So there are no small parts, I guess, as they say, right?
It's pretty amazing. So do you want to do a song for the people?
Sure. Let's do a song. We go grab.
All right, sweet.
Got to let it all ride. Got to let it slide, slide, slide. Changing time. Well, I've been so blind. Felt it coming on, oh yeah, we'll right and wrong. Baby gone, oh Lord, well I can't deny. I said, baby gone, she long gone, yeah. Had to leave, then she got to be free, yeah, right. Felt it coming on, oh yeah, we'll right and wrong. Said, baby gone, oh Lord, well I can't deny. I don't wanna know what it can't see, said it don't wanna face. Harsh reality, that you ain't my baby, no more. Said I guess that it don't wanna face the score, gotta let it ride. Got to let it ride. Got to let it slide, slide, slide. Changing time. Well, I've been so blind. Felt it coming on, oh yeah, we're right and wrong. Said, baby gone, oh Lord, well I can't deny. I said, baby gone, oh Lord, well so mine. Got to let it ride. Got to let it ride. Got to let it ride. Gotta let it ride now.
Nice.
That was awesome. You know what freaked me out though is the fact that was a beautiful song, and I grew up with you in Children of the Corn, and Malachi just sung a beautiful song to me.
There you go. Messes you up forever now, right? Yeah.
I'll never watch that movie the same ever again.
There you go.
That was awesome, man. That was fantastic. People go out and check it. Is your stuff on YouTube as well, like your solo stuff, or?
Yeah, you can find some solo stuff. There's a song Journeyman that's on there. It's kind of like I cut a bunch of stuff, clips I've done, and video and photos and all that. And that song's a real rocker that Matt Sorum from Guns produced from years ago, and Slash actually
nice.
lead on. So that's pretty wild.
Wow.
So, but you guys check. There's the videos of Ripple Street. There's some videos of mine, and check them out.
Fantastic,
No.
dude. Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Mark. I knew where you were going. Go ahead.
You know where I was going. All right. No, Courtney, I got a question for you. I hear that you've played with Phish, and that there's a little story there that about a prank you might have pulled with Trey.
Yes. So So, well, take it back to the beginning. I was hitchhiking from Nova Scotia to Detroit. A friend of mine got married in Nova Scotia. I was going to see this girl in Detroit. It was right before Can't Buy Me Love came out. I thought, let me do this before, I get, too recognizable perhaps or whatever. Second day in, Mike Gordon picked me up, hitchhiking. Took me to Burlington, Vermont, found me a place to stay that night. Talked about that, he had this band that was playing at Nectar's, and had this dream, and had a great talk, and went on about my business thinking, okay, well, that'll be the last I heard of this guy. But he always kept in touch with me, and I've watched them grow. First time I saw him play at this place called the Mayan Theater in LA, probably a 500 seat space. Next thing, they're opening for Santana. Next thing, they're doing their own thing, right? So that's sort of how that all came about. They had this friend of theirs that was a real prankster that was always pranking them. He was deathly afraid of Malachi. That was like a thing. So they had been trying for years to get me to do a prank, but it was just never the right, situation. So finally they came up with a pretty good scenario. It was in Vegas, so it wasn't far from LA. They had this penthouse. They were going to throw this big party, get him high on some shrooms, take him out gambling, come back. It's all dark. Children of the Corn's playing. They watch. And so that's what happened. They bring him back. And they got girls in the background singing the theme. And one by one, the bandmates peel off, Trey being the last one. Trey peels off. He meets me in the master bedroom. I put on his jacket. So it's an easy transition. I come and I sit down right next to the guy while he's watching the movie. He turns, his eyes just go, he's like, hey, and he gets up like really slow and walks out of the room. They were hoping for a big scream or something, which I can understand, but I could see how terrified he was. And he went in this room. I said he was scared shitless. They go in to talk to him, and the guy can literally not utter a syllable for 45 minutes. He's like, so at that point, they realized they really got him good. And he was a great sport about it the next day because, again, he's a prankster, and it was the ultimate prank. But at that point, I was in, as good a graces as I was ever going to be with the band. And they were like, what do you want? I'm like, let me come up and play a song with you guys. So I got to go play some percussion with Larry and Les from Primus on guitar and bass as well in front of 8,000 people in Vegas. And not an experience I'll ever forget.
Awesome. Favorite Phish song?
Oh, shoot. That's kind of put me on the spot. And I'm terrible with titles of songs. I'm really terrible with titles of songs.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
But I mean, I've seen them play a number of times, and it's interesting to see them from being in the crowd. You're just with everybody, going out and being backstage and watching them mesmerize the crowd, because you see it from the stage experience is very different than seeing it from the other experience. But what a great band. And the story I tell people that people maybe not know about Phish, and I don't know the guy's name, but when I first met Mike, he went to pick up his bass app at the college there. Now at the college, there was this professor who was a big time, at improv and training people in improv. So much so that this guy I know named Martin Gigi, who's the band leader for Gibbons from ZZ Top, that I also did a movie with called Benny Bliss and the Disciples of Greatness. He directed, that I wrote 4 songs on. He was also trained by him, but not just to put in perspective, his father was the conductor of the Burlington, Vermont Orchestra, and this is who he had him study with. And this guy can play anything you throw at him, he can handle it, because that's how well they're trained. That's how that improv culture in Burlington, Vermont was born. It was from this professor who trained these guys so beautifully that they can just wail, Nice.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that about that professor. I was always wondering where that came from. So
yeah, so that's why I told the story, because
awesome.
it's not one a lot of people know, but I don't know the professor's name, but he really should get a lot of credit, because he really, the jam band, there was Phish was not the only jam band in Burlington. It's like, it's a thing. They were just the one that broke big.
Yeah, there was a lot in that Northeast region during the early 90s. It was an incredible place at the time. But thanks for sharing that with us, man.
Sure.
Hey, quick question from somebody in the chat. Julian Keith wants to know who was the most fun to work with on the Burbs set?
On the Burbs set, who was the most fun? For me, it would have to be Bruce Dern. Number one, because he did a lot of little improv things and weird things that were interesting. But number two, he really took a liking to what I was doing and was really encouraging. I mean, really, really encouraging, and gave me great career advice and things like that. So, you know, I was already a Bruce Dern fan. I just became a bigger fan after that. And recently, I got to do a movie with him called Hellblazer that I don't know when it's coming out. A little indie horror movie. But I was so glad to get to see him again and thank him for how much of a positive force he was to me on that movie.
And a couple quick ones, if you got a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know how it was working with Rob Zombie on Halloween.
So what I always say about Rob, so I knew a guy who had worked with him before as a first AD, and he gave me a really good heads up. He's like, hey, look, you know, just don't be ready, like, for, you know, improv or anything. Don't worry. Don't think you're just going to do lines on this or whatever. And that was a great heads up, because that's exactly what happened. We ended up shooting another day or so because he's looking for the truth. So, like, you do the scene, and if it's not working for him, he keeps working until he finds things he likes. And if that means, now we did this, we got to add something else to make that work, he'll do that, you know? And I like that about him. And as an actor, it's a freeing and a good feeling to know you're going to take the time to get it right. And it was, you know, obviously a gnarly rape scene. And funny enough, when my kid was in high school, you know, none of his friends knew anything, you know, they'd ever done before, but they all saw that, you know?
Of course.
And they'd all be like, oh, you're bad, you're so dirty, you know? And, but it was funny is, you know, normally everybody hangs out at the monitor when you're filming. That's what everybody does. They crowd around the monitor. They want to see what's going on.
Right.
But when we come off the set to see Rob, there'd literally be nobody but him at the monitor. And he'd be going, this is really disturbing. This is really disturbing. Like, it was not anything anybody wanted to watch. And they ended up getting cut out of the first version, the theatrical version, because when they did the screeners, they found out that women didn't like the rape scene, which they didn't have to spend $1 million. I could have told them that.
Right.
But it did make the director's cut. So it's if you know you want to see that wonderful scene between me and Lou Temple raping a girl, that's the one for you.
Well, then this is a good segue. Aaron I'm probably gonna butcher your name, man. Sizemeier. I think it's Aaron Sizemeier. He said, "Did you come in my burrito?"
There you go. Now there's another example, of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You do sitcoms. They're so tight. You may get stuff to get cut out. Some things did because it's such a 22 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
But had no idea that line would one line. I think that's the only line I had. Is such a well-known and quoted line, and my son was a fan of that show, and I remember when he saw it, he literally fell to the floor laughing when I said that line. Literally fell to the floor. He just couldn't get over himself. So that's, you make your son laugh, that's good. But yeah, it's amazing that one line in a good show that's been on forever, people will quote, and it happens at conventions and things like that too. So no idea.
Did anybody walk up to you in the street and ask you?
Oh, it's happened. It's happened. Yeah.
Well, dude, you've been awesome. Thank you for doing the song. That was fantastic. Please come back anytime. And before you get out of here, just tell people where they can find you online, where they can find your bands, links, and all that stuff, and we'll let you get out of here.
Yeah, so Ripple Street and myself, like I said, you can find us. Spotify is the best way to find us. Unless, you want iTunes or like that. But me, just, my name on Facebook, you'll be able to tell which one's me because I have all the stuff up that's like current and real, and you'll be able to tell the difference. And then I just have an Instagram, same thing. Just look my name up, you'll find me. And I just want to plug a couple other projects because I have a couple other things coming out. One is an indie movie called River that's coming out July 13th, and I have a nice role in that, character named Dr. Michael Glenn, and it's got sci-fi undertones. It's very much an indie film, not like a lot of CGI or something. Very different. I play a psychologist, a shrink, very different role. And then I have another movie called Charming the Hearts of Men that's coming out August 13th, and that's a movie set in the 50s that has to do with civil rights and stuff, and it's a very, very cool project. I'm glad to hear it's coming out because that's also been a couple of years. I was like, when's this thing going to come out? So those are the ones to look at. Oh, and a horror movie I did called Await the Dawn just came out on Amazon Prime this week, which was a surprise to all of us. So all of a sudden, it's like a floodgate of all these projects I've done the last few years are all of a sudden all starting to come out.
Is that all because of COVID?
I just have to assume that's why. I mean, I didn't, no one really kept me informed. And then it's all of us. And Gravitas Ventures picked up the Queen Bees, River, and and charming the hearts of men. So God bless them for picking up these films. So
Sweet. Yeah, I was actually in the mood for a horror tonight, so I wrote that down. I'm gonna watch that. It's on Amazon right now.
yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. If you like horror, there's a trailer you can see of a movie I'm in. I don't know the release date yet though, called The Bleeding Dark, and it's very heavy. It's very much a drama. Other than when it goes into the kills, all of a sudden it's like 80s horror, you know. So
Nice.
it'd be interesting to see how that bridges together. Very emotionally intense role for me. Looking forward to seeing how that blends together.
Awesome. I'll look out for that too, but I'll watch the other one tonight.
Sweet.
I got that on the docket now.
All right.
Thank you so much, man. Have a great
Thanks a lot.
night. Stay cool, and dude, please come back.
Sounds
We'll,
good.
We'll get you back on here.
All right, you guys take care, huh?
All right, take care, Courtney. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Courtney. All right, duelers. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to end this episode right here. But don't worry, you can always go back on our webpage, duelingdecades.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, on Spotify, everywhere podcasts are available. And you can watch our show now on Pod TV and on YouTube. So make sure you subscribe and check those out as well. So until next time, duelers, we're going to bid you a peace, love, light, and a joy. Have a grateful week, everyone.